All right, welcome back to the Command Your Brand Show. I'm your host, Josh Silvestro, brand ambassador of Command Your Brand. And this, we talk to CEOs and founders about different topics, different things that help them, really get involved in their business and how they actually are very successful in this. So in this episode, we actually have a very special guest speaker. And this one actually goes over metals and how he actually developed a lot of different things in this company. He's the CEO and co-founder of Goldback, which is I heard is a really amazing company. So, I'd like to introduce you guys to a good friend of mine, Jeremy. So thanks for coming on the show, man.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, cool. So what we'll start off with is, I guess tell us a little bit about yourself for our audience, like people who want to get to know more about who you are. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you went into the company and the passion you have for it.
No, sure. I mean, precious metals is a really weird place to end up.
Yeah.
It's even weirder if you're not in your 70s, right? I mean, I think the average age of a coin store owner is, over 70 years old now.
Wow.
So I got sucked into this kind of from the monetary policy angle, through Ron Paul, back when he ran for president in 2011.
Wow.
And so I love what he had to say, and it got me really interested.
Nice. And what drove you the most? Like what drove your passion for that? Like what got you to say, wow, I want to do that. That's like my thing.
I thought it was really cool that all the money used to be made out of gold and silver, and now it's not. And inflation didn't used to be a problem, but now it is. And every year you get paid less. Right. Because unless you're getting a 10% wage increase, you're probably losing. And the American standard of living it's disappearing for most people.
Right. I know you also were into the hidden secrets of money. Is that right?
Yeah, that was just a YouTube series that kind of, laid it all out. It's kind of a Why Gold 101 type series.
Yeah. For people who don't know, this is by Mike Maloney's. It's like a series that he did on actual money and all that things like that. So I know for you, was that the thing that influenced you the most on that?
It was probably mostly Ron Paul, and then, Hidden Secrets of Money was a big one. And, but I grabbed onto, hundreds of videos and different books and, researched the topic. And, my thinking was, hey, if we could make gold a more usable form of money again,
right,
then we wouldn't have to worry about inflation so much, or at least you could opt out as an individual.
Right. So do you think it's, what value do you see in it? Because I know obviously it fluctuates and changes over time. What value do you see in the precious metals and gold and stuff like that?
It's a fair question. So, it used to be that you had entire stores where everything costed a penny, or 2 pennies or 3 pennies. And the wheat penny had about as much purchasing power 100 years ago. Do you know the wheat penny I'm talking about? Like the little wheats on the sides, the old pennies from the 1920s, 1930s.
Yeah.
So in the 1920s, a wheat penny had about the same amount of purchasing power as $1 today.
Wow.
And the penny was the smallest. They discontinued half pennies in the mid 1800s. So there was nothing smaller than $1 today. If you think about the significance of that, all the change that we have, we still have pennies, we still have nickels, we still have all the same money they did 100 years ago with 100th of the value. And even back then, they had $500 bills and $1,000 bills. And again, it's back when money was gold and back when money was silver. So we didn't have inflation. We had a better cash system. And now it's like, I think we hang on to the penny. But we're not just hanging on to the penny, we're hanging on to all change. We're hanging on to all of it because as a society, perhaps we're not acknowledging what's happened to our currency.
Right. I guess for people, a lot of, I don't know if people who listen to this are using gold or selling or buying them. What do you think what do you think the advantages of with gold and precious metals? Like, what do you think that would help? How would that would help people with in terms of exchange and money and things like that? How that fluctuates?
It's a fair question. I mean, if you have savings,
Mhm.
there's a lady that lived across the street from my grandmother in Berkeley, California, sole Jewish lady. And in the 60s, back when all the money was gold and silver, she took a bunch of cash, she stuck it into a mason jar, it was about $5,000, and she hid it in the foundation of her home.
Hmm.
Now, $5,000 in the 1960s would have bought you, a 25% down payment on a house in the area.
Oh my God.
But it was a lot of cash. That was a
Yeah.
lot of money to have in a mason jar. Well, they pulled it out a few years ago, and now it's not even 25% of a down payment on a new car.
Wow.
Right? Now, if she did gold coins or gold bars, she could still get a 25% down payment on the house in the area, right? At the same amount of money. So gold keeps its value while, cash doesn't. And that's been the sales pitch. I'd say the standard sales pitch for buying gold, for 40 or 50 years. The problem is that if you buy gold, I mean, for most people, there's a $2,500 entry point. So it's unobtainable. And if you have gold, the only thing that you can do is to sell it back for cash. And we try to address, at least those two things. So Goldbacks, I don't know if you can see this one here. So a Goldback is 1,000th of an ounce of gold. This is a $5 gold product.
Wow.
So what we're seeing is a lot of younger people are buying into Goldbacks. And when we started 5 years ago, this was a $2 product.
Wow. For people who are only listening to this, he's showing up the Goldback on the screen here. So if you're listening, that's what he's doing, just so you guys know.
Yeah, it looks like a Willy Wonka ticket. It's very gold and shiny. Everything you can see that looks like gold is gold.
Wow.
So it's getting new people into gold, but also people are spending them and using them as cash.
Right.
People are taking them to garage sales. You have small businesses taking Goldbacks as payment, and they're avoiding inflationary cash.
Yeah. What do you envision the future would look like with Goldbacks as they're, in terms of the financial scene of what we have today? Like, I know between inflation and other things like that, what do you envision or what do you think may happen with Goldbacks in the future?
That's a good question. So look what's happening in, Venezuela. Look what's happening in Zimbabwe. The job of a central bank is to make a currency that people will use. Right? We use money as a society. We use money because, people have things that we need. And, it's the medium of exchange that makes our whole society work.
Right.
Now, when money stops working, it's really bad. Everybody's standard of living goes down. Savings goes into the toilet. Your whole society can get, thrown down in a really big way. And you're seeing that in other countries that have fiat currencies like we do. Now, we have the world reserve currency. I don't know how much longer the dollar is going to be the world reserve currency. I don't know if it matters who wins the election in terms of what's going to happen with the dollar. I think we've printed enough of these things that the writing's on the wall. Now, if that's the case, I mean, we're looking at hard times ahead, just like they have in Venezuela or Zimbabwe. But again, going back to central banks around the world own 25% of the gold in the world. They don't have a way to use that gold. They store it in bars, and they store those bars in vaults. Nobody trusts them to go back to a gold standard.
Right.
Because the gold standard was, hey, here's a receipt, and we have gold for you somewhere. Trust us.
Right.
Well, who trusts them to have the gold?
Right.
Does anybody? I mean, because in the 70s, they said, hey, we have the gold, trust us. And then they said, some things happened. Never mind. We're going to suspend this. So all the receipts were no longer worth gold. And then, we started getting hit with inflation. So I don't think that people are necessarily ready to trust central banks to, going back to a trust us model. But the Goldback, the reason why this technology is so appealing, perhaps even to central banks, is you don't have to trust anybody. The gold is in it.
Mm.
So it has 1,000th of an ounce of gold, but it's not in the note. It's not in the bank. It's in the note.
Right.
And it's made in such a way where it's never been counterfeited,
Hmm.
which is another big deal.
Is it even possible to counterfeit those?
I wouldn't say it's impossible to counterfeit,
Yeah.
but I'd say that counterfeiters are probably 10 years away. And we're rolling out new anti-counterfeiting features just about every year.
Wow. That's really interesting because I don't like, to be honest with you, it's like, you know, we have a bank system that sort of, I feel like, you know, excuse my French, but kind of screw you over a lot of the times. And it's kind of like, you know, for you, like, where do people leave their gold, like in actual, like, in precious metals? Like, do they just keep it with them? Or is it like, cause I feel like if you leave it to the government or like other places and it's just like not very, or banks even, it's just not very workable, you know?
Yeah. If you don't trust a third party, there's a phrase that's really popular in the precious metals community. And it's, if you don't hold it, you don't own it.
Hmm.
And that's a very low trust phrase, right? It's like, I don't trust anybody. If it's not in my hand, it's not mine. Right? Like, okay, well, you know, if you don't trust central banks, if you don't trust banks in general, if you don't trust the financial system, you know, that's a very low risk approach. And the Goldback is a way that those folks, you know, can have something that's very cash-like in their hand without having to trust a third party. And it's part of a series, you know. So there's a 1, we've got a 10. The 10's got 10 times the amount of gold as the 1, costs 10 times as much. So it's a fungible, interchangeable cash-like form of gold.
Yeah. Do you think for you, because I know you've dealt with this for probably a few years now, do you find that there are any like key challenges that you run into in terms of gold or using Goldbacks or anything like that?
You know, some people, they want to know what it is. You know, a lot of people get really excited. You ask them if they'd take gold as payment. And, oh yeah, I would. And that's so cool. And you take Goldbacks out. Oh, that's so awesome. I've seen those.
Yeah.
You know, maybe 1 in 10 people kind of get you're offering them a venomous snake reaction. Oh, well, what's that? You know, why are you trying to give me that? I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But most people get excited because, you know, it's like gold jewelry. People really like gold. They like looking at it. And, you know, the big secret of the Goldback is it is 24 karat gold, and it's very attractive. So people gravitate towards it.
That's very interesting. I would love to have some, but like, I guess for you, what do you find is the best way to acquire it, or even just like, you know, keep it safe in a way? Like how would you obtain and keep it safe type with these Goldbacks?
It's not any different than cash.
Really?
So, I mean, if you've got, you know, everyone's different about their cash. They got a secret drawer. They got a secret floorboard. They've got a secret, you know, shelf. Yeah, whatever, wherever you stick your cash. I mean, people carry Goldbacks in their wallets.
Yeah.
You know, they can give them out as tips or gifts, and, you know, people settle debts and buy things, and, you know, it's used a lot like cash. And I carry Goldbacks with me, and I'm always surprised how often I have to refill my wallet with Goldbacks because I use them.
Really? Do you use them instead of cash or instead of actual coins or anything like that?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, all the time.
Wow. That's very interesting. I actually, you know, it's very interesting because, you know, my father actually is invested in a lot of gold and a lot of actual silver type things. And it's very interesting that you mentioned it. I see how it's actually more valuable than a lot of other things that are happening. So it's, you know, I can really see that actually it may fluctuate, but I feel like it actually is more precious and it's probably worth more over time, right?
Yeah, I mean, when we started with Goldback in 2019, it was $2, and now it's over $5.
Wow.
So the value has gone up quite a bit in terms of dollars. You know, I had to go to a FedEx the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm new in the area. I'm living here in Florida.
Yeah.
And, you know, Google Maps, they take me over to FedEx. And I'm at a hotel. And it's some giant Marriott hotel. And there's no parking, of course. It's valet only. But the FedEx is inside this complex, supposedly. So I asked the valet guy, I said, hey, you know, where do I park? I'm trying to get the FedEx. Oh, FedEx is inside. You can't park. I have to valet. Well, I'll be nice. I'm just going to let you park. You can park right there. So he was nice. He let me park. And I went in there. I did my business, and I came out, and he showed me where my car was. And yeah, the valet people, they're not rich. I mean, this guy's working off tips, and it's a slow day, and there's not a lot of people coming in and out. And, you know, so I pulled out a Goldback and I gave it to him, and he got so excited. Oh, that's so cool. What is that? Oh, it's 24 karat gold. Really? That's gold? This is like, oh, I got to show my dad. He like collects gold. Like, this is so awesome. You could just tell he made his whole day. Now, if I gave him a $5 bill, do you think I would have gotten that reaction? Or do you think he would remember it?
Probably not.
Probably not. I mean, he'd forget as soon as I drove off, right? I mean, it's just, one more five. But, you're giving somebody a very novel experience when you take out a Goldback. And it connects to people in a way that, is super powerful.
Wow. Yeah, it's very cool. I think probably people get more excited when you handle something shiny and gold rather than a piece of paper that's green and probably can harm you in some way. Yeah. That's cool. So do you think, like, over time, do you think Goldback will actually change how finances will be like in, I don't know, let's say in 10, 15 years? Do you think it'll change the actual financial system? Like, what's your take on that?
It maybe. I mean, we'll see. I think that inflation it's a bit out of control because governments are a bit out of control with spending.
Mm.
And it used to be that was kind of more like a philosophical thing. Oh, inflation's not great. And if it's 2%, I mean, very few people notice. Everybody's noticed the last 5 years.
Right.
Yeah, regular people, everybody's noticed. So, the question is do you want your monetary system to be able to lose you that much value? I mean, when I was a little kid, not that long ago, probably, grown up and having a 6-figure job someday was making it.
Right.
You're flying to Europe and bringing your family. Like, you remember the movie Home Alone came out in 1990?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So the guy lives in like a 3-4 story house. It's a 3-story house with the basement, and the dad is taking the extended family. Everybody, they're all going to Europe. He was an accountant.
Mm.
Yeah, that was normal. I mean, like the amount of spending power you had in 1990 on one income was just incredible. You have that same dollar figure income job today. You are not taking your extended family to Europe.
Right.
I mean, you might be able to qualify for a mortgage, but it's not going to be that house.
Right.
It's going to be a starter.
That house was huge.
It was huge. It was perfect. You got to set up all the booby traps and, get the, it's like, that was a great house.
Yeah.
People wanted to rob that house.
Yeah. Do you think, just out of curiosity, do you think the mechanisms that we have and the things that we have with Goldbacks, do you think it'll actually, do you think everyone will accept it at some point? Or do you think it's going to be like a long time until we actually get to that point?
It's interesting you asked that. So where we started as a kind of like a local currency in the state of Utah. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking that's where it'd stay. We do most of our sales there. Over 90% of Goldbacks sell outside of the states that have the names printed on them.
Really?
So Goldbacks are selling just all over the place. People like them all over the place. And I was hoping that I could get, 5 to 10% of small business owners to take these as payment. And hitting the road and meeting with business owners, we found out really quickly it was over 50% of small business owners would take gold as payment.
Wow.
So we started logging it. We started advertising them and putting them on our website. And we found that, very quickly, we had 7 times as many businesses in the state of Utah taking gold as payments in the form of Goldbacks over, say, Bitcoin.
Wow.
So we are seeing adoption because it's easy. You hand somebody a Goldback, you have a calculator, you can calculate how many Goldbacks you owe them, but you're not logging into your smartphone. You're not sending Bitcoin to a 40-digit wallet. I mean, it's the learning curve is just really easy for using Goldbacks. It's a lot like cash.
Wow, that's interesting. I think you mentioned that how one state is accepting all this, but over time, it's kind of, I wonder if they'll actually adopt it in, most of the states, which will be kind of interesting to see.
Yeah, we're going to Florida. So Florida's our next big project. We've never done a big state before.
Yeah.
We're actually doing a promotion here. So this is our kind of limited early release Florida product.
Wow.
You can tell it's a kind of like a more realistic style of art. But we're only offering these to businesses in Florida that are signing up for free advertising.
Wow.
If you own a business in Florida, you can go to goldback.com. You can sign up your business. We'll advertise you for free, and we'll send you a limited Florida Goldback promo item.
That's pretty awesome.
And,
does it only have to be Florida?
Yeah, it's just Florida for now. I mean, we're just doing the state right now, and it's, we'll grade them. I think they're going to retail for over $100.
Wow.
But I think that we could end up launching Florida with hundreds of businesses in Florida next year.
Wow.
So that's what we're working on right now.
That's great. I think it's interesting too, because it's such a valued thing and people would probably want it so much to actually even start, I don't know, just to maybe even start a business or just even roll with their business. I think, what do you find that like, if someone were to start their own business, because I have a lot of business owners that listen to this podcast, like what do you find would be like for your advice, what do you advise people to do in terms of getting involved in Goldbacks or like invest in it or anything like that?
If you want to take Goldbacks at your business, you can do that in any state. Again, you can sign up on goldback.com. We have an app that's coming out where we'll send you customers, is the hope. We have a calculator on the website. If somebody owes you, say, $100, you can calculate how many Goldbacks that is. Maybe it's 18 Goldbacks. You can figure out what the change is. So we have that all built in. We'll send you stickers. We'll teach you how to do it. We'll send you a welcome packet. People are worried that if they take Goldbacks at their business, that they're going to have to figure out how to pay all their vendors in Goldbacks and pay all their bills in Goldbacks, and they have to be on this gold system. When in reality, it's probably going to be less than 1% of your customers that are paying in it. So a lot of business owners, they're either taking their profits in Goldbacks, which it's done really well for people. They've more than doubled in price, right? You can't get hurt there.
Yeah.
Or they'll take Goldbacks and they'll spend them at other local businesses, which is, more or less how local currencies work, right? They circulate locally and they keep the money in the community.
Yeah. Have you ever had any people who had negative effects, or do you think they shouldn't do it because of some other weird reason?
If you're not really set up to easily take cash, then taking Goldback might not make a lot of sense.
Right.
If you're set up as an online only business and you don't really take cash, people don't, what are they going to do? Mail you the Goldback, right? So yeah, maybe those types of businesses. There are some groups that want to do a digital Goldback. That's not out yet. So it's the gold standard backed by Goldbacks, which that's fun. And if you trust third parties, it might be good. But yeah, I'd recommend cash accepting businesses for Goldbacks.
Is that mostly what you work with? Is cash businesses like that?
Yeah, a lot of brick and mortar businesses, hardware stores, grocery stores, movie theaters. Wow. A lot of contractors, dentists, doctors.
Do you also work with mom and pop shops as well? Like those type of
ones? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Who do you find are the group of people that talk to you or talk to you to get Goldbacks? Like who are the people that you think would talk to? Like obviously business owners, but what type of business owners?
Like I said, it's about half of small business owners that'll take gold as payment.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem to be, well, I will say this, it's a lot heavier on men. So for men, there's like almost like a 3/4 of men will take Goldbacks as payment. And for women, it's like 1/4 of women will take Goldbacks as payment for, female business owners. I don't know why.
That's interesting.
But
I think it's probably a man thing, maybe because the men want the actual, the gold because they were the ones that dig up the gold.
Yeah, there's a higher comfort level. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe
I'm scared to speculate.
Yeah, that would make more sense. Like, because if people were just digging up gold, that the men would be doing it for sure.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. And so, what do you find? So, if someone wants to get more, like, if they want to get Goldbacks, would they just have to order it, or where would they get it from?
Goldback.com. We've got a list of vendors that sell it. A lot of precious metals companies sell Goldbacks.
Wow, that's cool.
That's a good place to start. We have a buyer's guide if you go to goldback.com.
Really? That's awesome. And what do you recommend the most for people when they want to buy it? What do you recommend the most for them?
It's a good question. Some people just buy one of everything. Other people will buy a pack of 100 ones and just experiment with it.
Yeah.
Whatever calls your fancy.
Yeah. What do you find? I think was kind of interesting because, there's just so much information about gold, what to do with it, what not to do with it. What do you find like are the top mistakes people make with gold or with Goldback in this case? What do you find people make the most mistakes when they get it?
Like what kind of mistake?
I don't know. Let's say they buy it, or maybe they buy too much of it. They buy too much of something else. Like, do you find that people, when they buy, is there anything that they find when they buy Goldbacks? Do they use it for some weird reason, or they do like that? You notice that when they have it, they do off things with it that kind of is like, they things that they should do or they should not do, really.
I don't think so. We don't get a lot of complaints. I think we have really high customer satisfaction.
Yeah.
It's hard not to. I mean, Goldbacks have only gone up in value. And the first Goldbacks that we sold, it's like these guys, 2019, an ungraded 2019 Goldback, they might sell for, 40, $50 on eBay.
Yeah.
And the graded ones go for even more. So it's, people that bought a long time ago, they're not unhappy either. Now, I mean, you could make, suppose you don't store them safely, or, it's not really any different than mistakes you could make with cash.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you could lose it, right? You could, it's like, if you buy too many Goldbacks, they're very liquid. You could just return them and get your cash back. So it's not a one-way street.
Right. That's interesting. It's kind of cool because, people can buy as much as they want. It's kind of really cool that, you can really, if there's an exchange point of it, which I find this is definitely more valuable. And I think over time, it becomes more and more valuable. So people who buy it, or people who buy Goldback and they exchange it with other things, it grows over time. So I think it's kind of interesting, especially for business owners who use it. That's kind of like a really good avenue of like, oh, here's some gold, and you can increase your profits with that as well over time. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. No, it's a way to get new customers. We're advertising people. It's a way to, there's been thousands of local currency projects in the US. And the whole push behind the local currency projects is, hey, let's keep the money in the community. Let's have small business owners support other small business owners. And those projects tend to do really well for, 4 or 5 years. Most of them don't last longer than 10 years. And the reason why is local currency projects, one, they're tied to the dollar. Mm-hmm. And two, it's only backed by the merchants in the area that take it.
Right.
And the Goldback, we've sold about $170 million worth of Goldbacks. So by the numbers, we're the most successful local currency project in American history.
Wow.
But a Goldback has value outside of that small group of network of merchants.
Right.
It goes up in value because there's gold intrinsically in it, but a lot of the same motivations are there.
Yeah.
People want to be able to keep money in their community. They want something that's inflation proof. They want something that's tangible. And if you're going to save in something, I mean, do you want to save in dollars that lose 5 to 10% of their value every year? Or do you want to save in something that has a track history of going up?
Right. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I'm really fascinated by how, I think just talking to you kind of gives me more interest in gold and like investing in gold and like actually buying something, because it kind of really puts in perspective that like over time it's going to give you more value than it is a piece of dollar or like, some cash that's not really going to grow over time.
How do you save? How do you save if you're a young guy?
Right.
How do you save if you're 30 and, you walk into the bank and they'll say, oh, wow, you've got 10,000 in your account. You really ought to do something responsible. You got to make a 3% return on that. Okay, well, inflation's 10.
Right.
So now I only have to lose 7%.
Right.
While all my money is at risk and could go down in value if the stock market bubble pops. I mean, that's a horrible deal.
Right.
So, people are looking for other investment options, other savings options, and the Goldback has been a strong vehicle for that.
Right. It's very cool because like as you kind of grow, especially older, I don't know if for you, like, I don't know if your whole family's kind of like this, but like, you're kind of young and you're kind of like spending and you kind of do all these different things, especially as even as founders or CEOs, they kind of spend money whenever they can for their business, but they never look at the savings part of it. Like, how can I save so I can and put the money where it's worth and it's actually going to grow somewhere, So I think it's kind of interesting of what you put on that aspect.
Yeah, it's an acorn, right? You can buy Goldbacks and they're going to have their value later.
Right. That's very cool. Do you recommend people between Goldbacks and maybe just gold or precious metals that they should invest in, like as like their top investment thing?
So Goldbacks, they've gone up in price. I was thinking they wouldn't go up in price as fast as gold coins or gold bars, just because there's a premium on Goldbacks. It costs money to split an ounce of gold into 1,000 pieces.
Yeah.
So, Goldbacks sell for maybe double the melt price of gold. And I thought, hey, maybe people shouldn't buy, this is initially, I thought people shouldn't buy a lot of Goldbacks. They should buy some Goldbacks in case they want a spendable version of gold, a just in case gold, a prepper gold, or, I was looking at a different market. And what actually happened is Goldbacks went up in price faster than gold coins and gold bars. So, and that's 5 years of data.
Right.
So now it's like, I don't own gold coins anymore. I just own Goldbacks, and it's been outperforming coins.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, you can buy coins, you can buy bars, you're looking at $2,500, $2,600, $2,700 to get into a coin or a bar. There's a lot of counterfeit coins and bars out there. Or, it's $5 a Goldback. There's never been a counterfeit Goldback. You've got a lot more spending options. You've got a lot more liquidity in some sense because, you have more people. It's not just the local coin store that'll buy it back from you.
Yeah. Do you think over time, like as Goldback sort of evolves and kind of grows in the future, do you think it holds itself off of like from inflation and just, all these other impacts on the economy?
Yeah, so far it has. I mean, gold is very resilient against inflation, over the last 50, 60 years, and Goldbacks are just made out of gold. And to answer your question earlier, central banks own 25% of the world's gold. They might be interested in this technology down the road if people aren't buying their main product anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I think you're going to see central bank interest in, gold-backed technology.
Yeah, that's so. And do you think over time, do you think Goldback, when you put it with your family, do you think over time it'll just keep growing and be like, you'll be rich by the time you're like 60?
I don't think so. No. I don't think so. I mean, let's say that you were that Jewish lady across the street that put all the gold in the mason jar, or all the cash in the mason jar.
Yeah.
Well, what if she did Goldbacks instead? Well, they probably would have appreciated just as much as the coins, and it's still going to have as much purchasing power 40, 50 years later as it does today.
Yeah.
So it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's a don't get poor scheme.
Right.
She put the money in the mason jar thinking it was going to have its value later. That was to protect her retirement. And it didn't do that. Saving in cash it's not a good strategy if you're not in some market or getting some return somewhere.
Right. That's interesting. Well, okay, cool. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the questions that I had about gold. And I think that's really cool what you're doing, especially in your company, how it's actually helping with actually getting more gold and the value it's actually receiving. So people can actually, for the people audience that are listening, where can people find you? Where can people kind of connect with you? And maybe they want to buy some Goldbacks and get themselves some golds. Where can people find you?
Goldback into social media, you'll find us. Goldback.com, great place to go.
Awesome. Well, cool. Thank you very much for being on the show. I really appreciate the time that we took, and we actually answered a lot of questions about stuff. And of course, if you guys are listening, definitely check us out. If you like this stuff, like and subscribe to this, and we'll definitely put more content out like this. And of course, I thank Jeremy for being on the show and being a very special guest speaker.